What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the channel, The Jewish Catholic. It has been an absolutely criminal amount of time since my last video, and I feel like I've done that for a lot of times. But if you've been watching, you'll know that I had recently moved into a new home, and then I had to get things arranged. And then when I wanted to make the videos, the setup was horrendous. So hopefully by now, the setup is decent enough. So please let me know in the comment sections below if you think that it looks fair, if it looks good enough, also if it sounds good. But now, before we go ahead and dig into the meat of today's video, if you're not yet part of the family, make sure you hit that subscribe button, because in this channel we talk all things Torah, Halakha, Jewish thought, and more. If you end up enjoying this video, make sure you give it a thumbs up, because it really does help the video and the channel. And of course, if you find that this video is share worthy, make sure you share it with your friends and family. All right, let's go. Welcome back. Or welcome if you're brand new to the channel. My name is Daniel and this is The Jewish Catholic. In today's video, I wanted to talk to you guys about a question that was presented to me not too long ago, but a question that has been presented to me actually several times. And that is, now that you're Catholic, how do you know that you're in the right place? How do you know that this is the truth and that you're not going to end up in some other religion in a couple of weeks? That is a fair question, and it's a really good question, because if you know me, even if you know my story, you'll know that although I am of Jewish descent, I was raised as a Protestant Christian. And I did go through several versions of Protestantism: Pentecostal, Baptist, Seventh-day Adventist, I think you could count as part of that too. But then from there, I ended up in the Messianic Jewish world, and then in the more Orthodox side of the Jewish world. And now here I am, a Catholic. So what's stopping me from going from where I am now to some other place, some other religion, or some other belief system? So I get it. It is a fair question to ask. How do you know, or how do I know, that I'm not going to change into something else very soon? As I've always exclaimed in my channel, every time that I speak, I'm speaking from my experience, and I'm not trying to do it from some place of authority where I think I'm some know-it-all or a teacher or that I got everything figured out. But I can pretty confidently say now that there are two things that keep me where I am and that I know that will keep me here. And that is these two questions that when you ask them, if the answers to them are yes, if they are indeed true, then nothing else stands and only the Catholic faith is true. So what are these two questions, these two articles, these two elements that keep me rooted in the Catholic faith? The first one is this: is Yeshua, Jesus, truly and substantially present in the Most Holy Eucharist? The second question is, did Yeshua come to establish the Davidic kingdom? Let's begin with that first question. Is he really, truly, and substantially present? Jesus, is that really him in the Most Holy Eucharist? Or is it just, as some Protestants would say, just a symbol? It's just a piece of bread, a cracker. Or how some other Protestants say, well, the bread is still there, but Jesus is spiritually present. Or is it like what the Orthodox Christians and the Catholics claim, that when the host is consecrated, that although it still looks like bread, the accidents remain, meaning that if you took the host and put it under a microscope, it'll still look like bread. Is it still bread, or is it now really, truly, and substantially Christ? Well, being that I'm Catholic, you can probably assume that my answer to that is exactly what the Church teaches, that that host, when consecrated, even though the accidents may remain, such as the appearance, the smell, the taste of bread, it is no longer bread at all, and that it actually is truly and substantially Christ. That means that in its essence and its isness, if that's even a word, it is truly Christ. In the Catholic world, we use the terminology of transubstantiation. Now, if you hear the word trans, that means that it's changing into something else, and substantiation refers to the substance, what it is. So even though, again, it looks like, tastes like, smells like bread, it isn't. The substance, the essence, the truth is that it is Christ. Now, although Orthodox Christians might not necessarily use that terminology, they believe the same thing. So then how is it that Catholicism is the only true faith if even the Orthodox Christians believe the same? Well, that's when we go to our second question. Did Yeshua truly come to reestablish the Davidic kingdom? And to that, almost every Christian could say, yeah, of course, we know that. But when you go and dive into it, you will see that not everyone can provide a suitable answer as to why this is, and is it truly manifest in a real sense. The first set of elements that I want to dive into when we dive into this question is the trifecta. What am I talking about? When I refer to this, I'm talking about the system which God provided to guide his people in a spiritual and moral and even legal sense. That being the written Torah, the written law, or what we know now, the sacred scriptures. In addition to this was the oral Torah, or the oral law, and what we know now in the Catholic world as the sacred tradition. In addition to this, the third leg of this trifecta is what in the ancient world would have been known as the High Court, the Beit Din HaGadol or the Beit Din HaGedolah. That is what we know now in the Catholic world as the Magisterium. As you can see, what we have in the Catholic world with the sacred scriptures, sacred tradition, and the Magisterium are not something invented by the church, but they take their ancient root right from the ancient Temple Judaism faith, which is the oral law, the written law, and the High Court. That system was placed by God himself in order to guide his people in a moral and spiritual and even in a governmental, more civil manner. Now, this trifecta is only truly visible in the Catholic faith, but there is another element that I want to explore, which basically puts that nail on the coffin to seal the matter up, and that is the matter of the papacy. Many have called the papacy the most distinguishable aspect of the Catholic faith, and that is because if you take away the papacy, you could pretty much scrap away the whole faith. You could end up in Orthodox Christianity, you could pretty much be a Lutheran. There are other alternatives that one may want to turn to if the papacy were not true. Now, why I stick with the Catholic faith, knowing these elements to be true, and specifically talking about the papacy, is because I see as a Jew that this is not something that the church made up, but it is in pattern with what we see in the ancient Jewish faith, what we see in Scripture. If you look through the different books of the Tanakh, you will see, for example, in the book of Kings, 1 Kings, that there is a specific role that gets talked about. This steward that has a successive role, successors that take hold of this role, a person who is blessed not just with a priestly role, but also a governmental role, which is essentially what the papacy is, right? But there is an even more direct connection when we look at the book of Yeshayahu, the book of Isaiah chapter 22, in which it shows us the story of Shebna and Eliakim, in which we see that this role of the steward is very, very akin, as a matter of fact, a foreshadow of the papacy. This role, this man gets called an Av, which is a father, Papa, Pope. He is also provided with a priestly role and a royal role. It is also said of this character that he receives the keys to the kingdom, same as what we see with Kepha when Yeshua blesses him with the role of the papacy. We also see that this man is given an authority so high as to be the second-hand man in the kingdom, that whatever he shuts is shut, whatever he opens is open. Very much akin to what Yeshua tells Kepha and later the other apostles, which is that whatever they bind on earth will be bound on heaven, and whatever is bound in heaven will be bound on earth. So again, this role here is not a new invention, but it is something that has existed throughout time. With that, and taking the trifecta, it's very solid. I can say it's a pretty solid argument to the fact that what the church claims in the papacy is true, and that fulfillment of the Davidic kingdom, that ancient structure, is only truly and more fully visible in the Catholic faith. And thus, if the questions that I asked before, to these answers I can provide yes, then only the Catholic faith is true. Now, be mindful of the fact that when I'm talking about these things, I realize that there is a whole lot of elements that you can consider. You can dive way deep into these topics. And if you wanted to dive deeper into the elements of the papacy, you could look at the work of my friend Swansona, and you could also look at the work of Brant Pitre. I've also posted videos myself in this matter, and I'm sure you could find other elements from works like Steve Ray that talks about the papacy. I think he's got a great book, Upon This Rock. I think you might want to check that one out as well. In regards to the Eucharist, I will mention my favorite work, which comes from Dr. Brant Pitre, and that is Jesus and the Jewish Roots of the Eucharist. Check out that book, and these works will definitely help you to expound on this topic that I'm talking about right now. But really, in their essence, though they are very deep and very rich, and a lot of things are needed to consider, it is still a very simple matter of these two questions, which, again, if they are indeed true, only the Catholic faith is true. And that is why I am a Catholic, and not just any Catholic. I'm a Jewish Catholic because I still hold on to my Jewish roots. I still know my lineage, but my faith is in Christ. My union is with the Catholic Church, which is the only church established by Jesus Christ himself. So yeah, I hope that answers the question. How do I know that I'm going to stick here where I am and I'm not going to be switching into something else in a week or in a month or a year? Who knows? Well, this is why. I hope that this video has helped some of you out there who might be either Catholic or non-Catholic who have been debating with this question of whether the Catholic faith is really true or not. If you did enjoy this video, make sure you give it a thumbs up because it really does help this video and the channel. Share it. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope you have a blessed week. Shalom.